I would like to welcome all our guests for today who are involved in the process of the exhibition, which we opened yesterday, Future Perfect. I would like to welcome both curators, Angelika Stepken and Philipp Ziegler, and the three artists who are also with us, who are participating in the show. Antje Majewski, Nasan and Yorgos Sapountzis. I would like just to make maybe a short introduction to the people who are in the talk, but also not too extensive. Angelika Stepken, the curator, is director of Villa Romana in Florence, and before she was like a long-term director of Badischer Kunstverein in Karlsruhe, and also she was teaching and lecturing and working as a critic. Philipp Ziegler is working at the moment at CKM Karlsruhe, where he is a curator and research collaborator. And the three artists are free artists, and each of them, of course, has his or her own practice. And what I find really interesting, maybe, that in this constellation, actually, almost all of you, I think, combine different media and work both with performance, video, and text sometimes, and all these kind of different media which come together in installation and sometimes in participatory works. And so I think it's a very interesting point also to start with, that we don't have this like unique media-based artists, but also rather people who are working with different things. Yeah, okay, maybe I will just start with giving the voice to the curators, because I really would like to have a little bit maybe like a background of what this show is about, and how, first of all, how it was done, because this is a very specific also model, because we are having a show which is showing contemporary art from Germany. So we are not speaking about German art anymore. We are speaking about art from Germany. And I would like to start and to take this point as a starting point, why it is now art from Germany and what happened to the concept of national exhibition as such. And maybe you could give us a little bit more of the background of your research, which I can imagine was vast, to map the contemporary art scene in Germany, and why you chose those artists, and what was your curatorial choice in first stance.
Okay, perhaps I start with the general premises for the exhibition, and then Philipp could say something about the concept, because I did it yesterday again and again. I mean, the fact that you say the subtitle is not German art, I mean, art could never have been German art is art, but it relates simply to the fact that reality changed and that a lot of artists from all directions are moving, especially, of course, to Berlin. And it was not our purpose to make a selection of, I don't know, Vietnamese, a Danish, a blah, blah, blah artist, but we just try to find an overview of what is happening, and then we noticed that most part, we didn't even count how many German, how many not German artists are in, that it's an international scene working at the moment temporarily. Nobody knows how long they are staying in Berlin, if they are moving in other directions again in Berlin at the moment. The other, must say, premise for the show is also very ambiguous in a way, because you see it here as a simple, stable, actual show on contemporary art, but in fact it is a show which is going to travel for years. So it will be contemporary in 5 years, it will be contemporary in 10 years, although meanwhile, of course, the artistic scene will have developed and changed. And on the other hand, all works of the exhibition are bought by IFA. They enter the collection of the Federal Republic. So on one way, it is like buying works for a collection, but it's not for a collection, but for an exhibition, which will travel. And that means also when it's traveling, it will keep its form. and works have to be more or less stable to be able to travel. These were kind of limits, but also great possibilities to conceive this show. And I mean, at the end, you see an exhibition of 16 artists, and it has to work. But the conditions for this selection also had to do with the special character of the project.
Yes, Angelika said, I mean, this is a traveling exhibition, and normally you always make the choice for one specific venue, one specific time, and that's why, like, the notion of future was already kind of within the task of doing or building together like an overview on the contemporary art scene in Germany, but which will travel for many years around the world. And when we were asked by Eva to think about a show on art from Germany, it was back in 2011, and as you can remember, this was also like more or less the peak of the financial crisis, and meaning so it was kind of a time when all the speculation about future were very kind of doubtful, and you hesitated also to speak about the future, because it seemed that all this what could be the future is already consumed in the present by, I mean, if you think about like what happened there at the stock market and like the logic of the markets, which are so much kind of consuming this what the future could be also in the present tense. So at that point we thought that this kind of relation to the future is a very crucial one, and we wanted to see what kind of how artists would rely, or what artists think about this topic. I mean, we didn't commission artwork, so we didn't ask the artists to create new works on this topic, but we made a very vast and large research, and we made many studio visits, and we selected then works which would fit in this framework which we gave for the exhibition. And so all the works have, of course, also other meanings, and you can read it also in maybe completely other in other directions, but the works still they give, they propose something. They deal with the future, but also with the past, and by having the combination of the both kind of views from the present, like the future and the past, we thought this is an interesting proposition, and not kind of it doesn't give answers on the question what the future might have looked like, but it makes, or it poses the question.
And I mean, the title is not about the future, but future perfect, and that's a grammatical form for certain verbs, how to deal, how to behave, and and perhaps you gave yesterday kind of alternative title for the show that was either our future is the past or our past is the future. That could have also been the title of the exhibition, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting as far as, because I was thinking about it last night about the title, because as far as I considered, maybe I'm just wrong, but someone can correct me, but I think actually in Polish we don't have future perfect as a form in grammar, because of course we have this passive future, but it doesn't have this construction of bringing past already in the future as something which was completed, which is also interesting, you know, when you think about the cultural background and so on. But I really would like to ask you a little bit more about the research you have done, because if you could say a little bit more about what was your, because always such an occasion like to do a show like that is a good occasion to have really a deep insight in the art scene, which normally, of course, we do on the regular basis as curators, but when you particularly looking at Germany, for example, and so on. So if you could say a little bit more also about the things which are not in the show, but were important to you, and how it was kind of like, in a way, narrowed down to this form and this selection. And because, for example, it's also interesting, and I think it's like also a very conscious choice of on your side, that, for example, we don't have any images from Germany within this show, and any direct reference to the Germany. No, it's kind of like
To the country?
yeah, to the country. It's completely missing from this show. So only the language, maybe, like in Clemens von Wedemeyer piece, there is German spoken, but apart from that, like everything. Could it be any other show? Like, could it be British show, for example? Like, just to provoke a bit.
Well, I mean, it was never our aim to make a show about Germany. We wanted to show works from Germany, or like which were produced in the recent time in Germany. So we were never thinking about kind of a very like literally kind of a like a show which would illustrate like the life in Germany, or a kind of which brings all this realism to this exhibition, because I mean, this would have been a completely other direction. So it's not that we excluded all the works which were more kind of representing Germany in a more literal way, but it didn't fit to so much to the concept, and so we didn't thought that there's the necessity to concentrate on this, because we also didn't found the need that it's so much talking about Germany.
My question is also not about illustrating Germany, but it's more about the global and the local, and how much like local is German art, and how much our art in Germany, or how much like is it still like relevant for the artist to refer to the elements which are somehow like German, or which are somehow connected to Berlin, or to the space in Germany, and so on. This is my question.
I mean, they are of course, like the German language is sometimes part of the artworks, but many other works they have chosen English as a language which is more common, and because like the German art scene is so international in a way that also English, it's the common language, because they are not works which are produced for the reception just in Germany. It's kind of they are all works which are and their focus is more internationally also, and they are also more internationally received. So but also, for example, Yorgos Sapountzis' work, it's a work which was created in Berlin, and it shows like Yorgos relates to two statues in Berlin created in the 30s and one in the 50s. So there are kind of these layers of Germany in there, but it's maybe not so obvious.
Yeah, and I think especially or not especially, but as in the case of Yorgos, I mean, he's dealing with Richard Scheibe sculpture in Berlin Tiergarten, but his background is also influenced by Greek public spaces and Greek architecture and monuments. And I think that's special for perhaps in, let's say, better Berlin than Germany on the whole. That a lot of different backgrounds have a lot of different approaches and meetings with a kind of everyday life in German reality. But I mean, perhaps I would not say that even city galleries refer only to what is happening in the city or in the local region. It's much more now a conversation between different histories, biographies, networks, and so on.
If you could say a little bit more about this general overview, is it really possible to speak about an overview of the contemporary art scene in Germany? Or
well, of course not. I mean, we are showing here in the 16 artists, and as you can imagine, they are kind of, I don't know even the number of artists living in Berlin and also in other cities of Germany. So, of course, it's a very narrow selection and a very small selection. It's also like taking like a choice, and we, as curators, we had, of course, also our networks, and we work now also in this exhibition together with artists. We sometimes have worked also in other contexts before, and we were familiar with the work. So, but what is maybe kind of, you can say it's also, we weren't asked for a specific kind of direction by IFA to go, but it's also, as we collaborated for this exhibition for the first time, we found out that we had a kind of a very similar group of artists in mind, and we choose then to travel to their studios and to ask them about their works, and we did the research together. So, and in the end, we choose then out of those artists we visited, we choose then this selection.
Maybe if I could ask Elke Ausdemore, who is with us and who is the head of artistic department of Institute for Foreign Affairs of Germany, if you could give us a little bit of background, and because we were also speaking about this transformation of this kind of show, which also changed over time, right? And how, for example, you perceive such a show today, and what its main goal at the moment.
Yeah, thank you for also including this kind of perspective. I think, as I also mentioned yesterday, I mean, IFA, this Institute for Foreign Cultural Relations, is acting as an independent organization, but on the other hand, most of the money is coming from the Ministry for Foreign Affairs. So we are also, this is also an act of cultural policy abroad. And of course, as also Angelika said, times were changing, and that also means that also the image or the tools of policy changed a lot in the last time. I think the program of IFA, as I also mentioned yesterday, is that we are working with traveling exhibitions for more than 60 years. So we have a huge collection of art pieces, which are currently presented at ZKM. It's really a huge show. This is also going to travel. And it changed a lot because, I mean, of course, we all have this monographic exhibitions like Gerhard Richter, Rebecca Horn, Rosemarie Trockel, and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, since several years, the art scene in Berlin, in our country especially, and I come back to this aspect or this topic of could it also be a British or French or whatever exhibition, which is partly true, of course. It changed because the art scene became so international. And what we of course, an exhibition never can represent a whole art scene. It's true, of course. But on the other hand, it can represent a part or give an insight of the discourse, of the contemporary discourse which is going on, and also the possibilities. What is possible? What is happening when artists from all over the world are coming to Berlin or to our city to study there, to act, to create a new visual language on also the history of cultural aspects in Germany or in Europe, whatever. So this is kind of a reflection on this. And what we can offer with this exhibition is, of course, to bring an insight of the possibilities, but also to connect with the city where we present. For example, we listened yesterday that there is a comment or a contribution from a curator from Warsaw on Antje Majewski's work. We talk about this later. So this is kind of important for us, and also the framing that we offer discussions or workshops in the city where we present the exhibition. Yeah, coming back maybe to this topic, could it also be a British exhibition? Of course it could be. But on the other hand, no, it couldn't be, because, I mean, these are, at this moment of where Angelika and Philipp made their curatorial choice, it happened in Germany. This is the local aspect of it, you know. And as we all know, in contemporary art, national aspects are not so important for us anymore. And I myself, I also have a curatorial aspect, so I really bring this also to the program, because nowadays I'm curating more in this programming, a whole program of traveling exhibitions, for example. And I would like to give also an example where these national identities are not so important, or where we can bring also a sign of this, because I had a talk with our colleague from Institut Français, because Germany and France, we changed the pavilions in the Venice Biennial. So this was really a big sign for this, how we question also national identities and contemporary art world.
Okay, thank you very much. So maybe also to just already start to involve the artists who are silent, to maybe we just should start with this very concrete space, which is Berlin, and which is to all of you, as I understand, more or less home and the place of production at the moment to the artist, and how you perceive this space, or how it influences your work, and is it really like this place which somehow gives themes or gives some sort of like important context, or it's more like a flexible, not that expensive yet, although becoming a place to live? And because we, of course, we can speak about Berlin as a also typical example of partly at least gentrification done also with a huge part on the artistic side within the last decade. So maybe you could comment a little bit on this very geographical precise spot, which is kind of common for the artist. Okay, for example, I would be very interested and to hear whether you think, for example, that Berlin offers any sort of artistic community, or there are like hundreds of artistic communities within, but they are not really like creating one community. I think it's kind of like a.
So well, I can talk for myself. So I moved to Berlin from. So I'm born and grown up in Germany, actually, so it's maybe different than you, but I moved to Berlin because, like 7 or 8 years ago, because no friend left in my city. Everybody moved to Berlin somehow. And I tried, at that time, I was like going often to Berlin, but I was also scared a little bit of Berlin because I was living in Frankfurt. I studied there, and that's a really like a money city. You have to really work. Everything is expensive. It's like the opposite thing of Berlin. So when I always was in Berlin, it was great, like a huge art scene and like everywhere party in every house, and everything is easy, it's cheap, and so this scared me a lot. So I was really confused, and then I went to Berlin, and I was surprised how well productive I was then. It was really easy. The people are like the whole scene is like a lot of people come, go again, But so it's really easy to connect with the people, and also the contest is good. Like when there are so many good artists there. There are so many artists who are really internationally and on a good level, and I like that. So it was really something. So when you make a show in the Museum of Modern Art somewhere, so there was another one in the party who made 3 shows in Museums of Modern Arts, and the other one made more. So there was no. You didn't thought about it anymore. You just, like there was a high quality level also, not only because they make exhibitions in big museums, but also in art pieces. And also from internationally, a lot of really good artists had their second studios there, or then moved really. At that time, mostly they had second studios, once I know, but then they also moved to Berlin. I feel home there, so it's a city which makes you feel welcome. I had that feeling, but at the same time, also it has a face which I was never confronted before. It was also with the old Berliner scene, though it's a kind of confrontation there. It's interesting somehow. So the old Berlin East scene is so not the art scene. So it's more like who are you, and you don't belong here. You make everything more expensive. So we are the reasons actually why it's getting so expensive in a way, because I don't know why, but they think it's getting interesting when we come there, and then somehow we're part of it, of this change, and everybody is like complaining about it. But I like it. I don't know. Like you can. It's good to work. Anyway, it's a home, and it's really. It's not anymore like in the past, maybe, because as a Berlin artist, you don't have exhibitions anymore in your city. I'm not present there. You know, I'm abroad somewhere. So therefore, I say it's a good home. You know, that it's important for me to come back, and you don't have to go to the openings or whatever, because your thing is anywhere somewhere else.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because it seems like just on the contrary to the rest of Germany, which has really a very well developed art system in terms of institutional art system, with very different types of institutions coming from, starting from independent galleries, artist-run spaces, Kunstvereine, Kunsthallen, museums, and so on, so on. So you have really the wide range of that. Berlin, on the contrary, doesn't have a single contemporary art museum. So it's
Hamburger Bahnhof? No.
well, yeah, so it's more like belonging to these big museums now, and somehow like it's really interesting. It seems like Berlin is the place of production and some activity, but is it really like visible really in the city? How do you perceive it? Like not for non-art audience. I mean, for art audience, but not for artists, basically. Like not for the ones who are involved in making. Antje, maybe you just said also that you see some parallels to Warsaw at the moment.
Well, I think I want to give an example. I just, day before yesterday, I curated a show in Berlin, and this is the typical Berlin show, I would say. I know a friend who is American but moved to Berlin some years ago, and she found this empty space, and then the owner of the building, it was a former brothel, like with prostitutes, and he wants to make this a nicer place, so he offered her the basement for free, with about like 9 rooms, and altogether I invited 14 artists, and of these 14 artists also I didn't count, but it's a show about traveling, and I thought it's about people who travel from Berlin somewhere else, you know, a little bit like, and I think about 8 come from other countries to Berlin, yeah. They're not German, they are Colombian, Turkish, French, I can't remember, all kinds of different nationalities. They live in Berlin, and I don't really think about it when I curate a show like this. I don't think I invite my friend who is originally Turkish. I just think I want this friend who makes really interesting work. And this is, I think, the typical art scene, you could say, but it's a scene that you have to create also. If you don't do anything about it, it doesn't happen, you know. Everybody can also stay just in their own studios and just do their own work and get some money. So I think if you'd ask about community, it's a different thing, you know. You can say, okay, going out, having nice exhibition and so on is very nice, but I think Berlin lives also from these initiatives of young people, or not so young people anymore, to do a lot of work for free, you know, and then to form communities. So I'm part of a feminist group of 16 female artists, and we will also come to Warsaw next year in the autumn, so I'm very happy about this. And we will work with another 15 Polish artists, female artists from Berlin and from Warsaw, and hopefully also create a community. And I think community building is something that we as artists have to do. We can't expect from the institutions. I don't expect this from the institution. But I would like to live in an art scene that I form in the way that I want it, you know, like that makes me happy. Yeah.
Okay. So I would like to take first, like I think always like Berlin is not a city. Like it's a wannabe a city. Like it's a little bit like the most interesting that I find Berlin is a city that it wants to be a city in the future, but it's not yet a real city. So for me, it has this combination of province. Like I come from Athens, and I find more similarity, for example, to Athens, to London, or to Warsaw as Berlin. Berlin is a very strange combination. Like became like was this strange divided city, and then it came the capital there, and they try like to push it to be a real city, but what is a city without a rush hour? Like it's never has like a rush hour. You never see businessmen in Berlin running around like that. So this is a very nice place to stay and work. Like I find always very quiet place to work, although it's a city. But what I would like to say, like for example, what you said before, for if is this a German show or it could be in England, like it's interesting. I find that is like this show shows, and it's a little bit parallel to what Berlin is. For me, I say always like Berlin. It's like